Welcome to the Deep Dive. Ready to explore a world that might just turn everything you thought you knew upside down?
It's really something else, isn't it? The idea that there's so much we might not be seeing, like our world is just a tiny piece of a much bigger and more intricate puzzle.
Absolutely. And today we're diving into that puzzle. We're taking a deep dive into Terra Infinita by Claudio Nocelli. It's a book claiming to reveal a truth that's been hidden from us for centuries.
The story's told from Helen Morris's perspective. She's a woman born in this hidden land beyond Antarctica that they call the Republic. Her father, an explorer, stumbled upon this hidden world, and now Helen is on a mission, you could say, to share what they know with the rest of us.
So the book's main claim is that Earth, well, it isn't a globe at all. It's this flat plain surrounded by an impenetrable ice wall, what Nocelli calls the Great Dome. And get this, it's hiding 178 other circle environments, or Earths, each with its own unique civilizations.
I know. It goes against everything we've been taught about Earth being a sphere. But let's just set that aside for a second. Even if we don't toss out our globes just yet, it's an interesting thought experiment. Like, how much of what we believe is based on things we've never really questioned?
You can actually see a map of these 178 Earths in the show notes, and it's honestly mind-blowing to try and picture. But it gets even wilder because, according to the book, a technologically advanced race called the Custodians has purposely kept humanity's true history hidden.
It's funny, right? This idea of the Custodians, it kind of plays into those classic conspiracy theories, like there's always some secret group pulling the strings. But it really does make you think about how information is controlled, even in our world today. Who gets to decide what we believe? What if there are truths we're not supposed to know?
It's a really good point. Sure, it's easy to brush these ideas off as a bit out there. But maybe there are forces at work that we just aren't fully aware of. So tell me more about these Custodians. What are they like? Why are they keeping us in the dark?
The book describes them as this parasitic race that's obsessed with control. They're incredibly technologically advanced, and they've been around for ages. And get this, they orchestrate these catastrophic events called resets to wipe out any civilization that gets too advanced. It's their way of staying in charge.
Hold on, resets? You mean they just wipe out entire civilizations? How's that even possible?
Well, the book doesn't really go into the nitty-gritty details of how they do it, but it does suggest that these resets are planned events, maybe using some crazy technology or by manipulating nature somehow. Kind of a scary thought, right? Our whole civilization could be wiped out like that.
Terrifying, yeah. But it's also intriguing. If these resets have happened before, wouldn't there be some evidence, some trace of these lost civilizations? And how does the book explain why there's no scientific proof of these massive events?
Right, and that's where the idea of information control comes back in. The book says the Custodians are experts at manipulating things, like erasing evidence and rewriting history. They basically control what information gets out there to keep their power intact.
Okay, now it's starting to sound a little more like a conspiracy theory, but let's just play along for a minute. Why would they even bother with these resets? What's the point of wiping out civilizations?
The book says the Custodians get really threatened by any civilization that starts developing certain abilities, like advanced tech, spiritual awareness, or when they start to understand the true nature of reality.
So basically, they're scared of us evolving, of reaching our full potential. That's pretty bleak, if you ask me.
It's definitely a pessimistic view of humanity's place in the universe. But on the other hand, it means we actually have something they fear, something they can't control. There's something inside us that they can't erase.
Okay, now I'm really curious. What exactly is this power we have that makes the Custodians so afraid? The book keeps mentioning this celestial essence. What is that exactly?
They call celestial essence the source of life. It's like a connection to a higher realm or dimension that the Custodians are desperate to reach, but they can't. The book hints that it's linked to our spiritual development, our ability to connect with something beyond just the material world.
So it's not about building bigger weapons or fancy tech. It's about something more internal. Like we need to unlock something inside us to become a real threat to the Custodians.
Yeah, that seems to be the idea. And then there are the giants. They were allies with humans, helping us fight against the Custodians. And they have knowledge of this ancient technology that might be the key to unlocking our hidden potential and understanding this whole celestial essence thing.
Wait, giants? Like actual giants?
Yep, giants. And the book says they're still out there somewhere, beyond that ice wall.
This is getting wild. A whole world beyond the ice wall, full of aliens, a history of war and cover-ups, and humans potentially holding the key to freedom. It's a lot to take in. Where do we even start unpacking all of this?
Well, the book suggests we start by questioning everything we thought we knew. Look beyond the surface, challenge the official stories, and consider that maybe, just maybe, there's more to reality than we've been led to believe.
I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, but also kind of excited. It's like we found a treasure map, and now we're setting off on this epic quest to find out what's really out there. But before we get too carried away with overthrowing cosmic dictators and unlocking our inner superpowers, let's get into some specifics. The book says Helen's father actually went beyond the ice wall. How do you even manage that?
Now that's where things get really interesting. According to Terra Infinita, William Morris's journey beyond the ice wall wasn't just some random trip. It was actually orchestrated by a man named Butler, who was originally from the Republic, Helen's birthplace.
Ah, so there was already contact between the Republic and, well, our world. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
But why all the secrecy? If they knew about the custodians and how dangerous things are, why not just tell everyone?
That's a great question. And the book offers a couple of explanations. First, the custodians have a really tight grip on information in our world. Anyone who tries to talk about the truth is quickly silenced, discredited, or just disappears. It's like a giant cover-up operation.
So they've infiltrated our institutions, our media, even our science, to keep their story going strong. That's pretty chilling. But what about the people in the Republic? Why didn't they just come out in the open and help us fight?
The book suggests they actually did try. In fact, around 14,000 people from the Republic came into our world to try and wake people up to the truth.
14,000 people. That's incredible. What happened to them?
Well, the custodians found out, unfortunately. There was this incident with a military ship near Antarctica, and after that, the custodians really started cracking down. A lot of the infiltrators had to flee back to the Republic, some were captured and tortured, and some, well, they didn't make it.
That's heartbreaking. Sounds like they risked everything to try and help us. But why even bother? If they were safe in their hidden world, why get involved in our mess?
It seems like a mix of things, you know. First, there's a sense of, well, family. They see us as descendants, and they don't want to see us suffer under the custodians' control. Second, they get how dangerous the custodians are for everyone within the Great Dome. If the custodians get access to those celestial lands, which they're desperate to do, it could be game over for everyone, not just us.
So they're fighting for everyone's freedom, not just their own. That's pretty noble, but it also makes things a lot more serious. If the custodians can control 178 different Earths, how could we ever hope to defeat them?
That's a question we'll definitely dig into more as we keep going with Terra Infinita. But for now, let's focus on what happened to William Morris. The book says he met a pretty tragic end trying to get back to the Republic.
Yeah, the details about his death are pretty disturbing. To be disintegrated by some unknown technology while trying to get home, that's awful. And the fact that the custodians gave that technology to human leaders in our world, that's even more worrying. Like they were setting us up to destroy ourselves.
It's really troubling, especially because the book says the custodians knew how dangerous that technology was. But they gave it to us anyway. Maybe they wanted to cause chaos and division in our world, making us easier to control.
Divide and conquer. Classic tactic. But let's go back to these resets for a second. The book says the last one was especially brutal, wiping out everyone older than 7 months. How do they even do that? Is it like some kind of global disaster they create?
The book doesn't get into the specifics of how the resets work, but it does make it clear they're planned events. There's mention of a great flood that happened during the last reset, wiping out most of humanity and giving the custodians the chance to reshape our world to their liking.
So they're basically playing God, manipulating things to control the course of history. And what's even scarier is that they're always watching us, keeping tabs on our progress and development. If we get too close to the truth, if we become a real threat, they'll probably trigger another reset. It's like we're living with a ticking time bomb.
That's a powerful way to put it. It really emphasizes how important Helen Morris's mission is. She believes we're running out of time, that we need to wake up and find a way to break free from the custodians' control before it's too late.
Okay, so we got the doom and gloom part down. But the book also hints at a way out of this mess. Helen mentions this celestial essence that makes humans a threat to the custodians. What is that exactly, and how do we tap into it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The book calls it a source of life, a connection to something higher that the custodians are desperate to access. It hints that this celestial essence is linked to our spiritual development, our ability to connect with something beyond the material world.
So it's not about weapons or technology, but something more internal.
Exactly. It's about unlocking our inner potential, tapping into a power that the custodians just can't control.
But how do we do that? The book mentions that the giants know about ancient technology that could help us. Is that the key?
It's certainly a possibility. The book says the giants were crucial in helping humans advance technologically before the last reset. They might hold the key to rediscovering that lost knowledge, the knowledge that could help us understand our celestial essence and break free from the custodians.
So we need to find the giants. Are they still out there somewhere, beyond that ice wall?
That's the adventure, isn't it? Terra Infinita gives us a map, a path to understanding our true history and potential, but it's up to us to follow it.
It's like we've been given a treasure map, but the real treasure is hidden inside ourselves.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're still exploring Terra Infinita and its pretty wild claims about a hidden reality that's right under our noses, or maybe I should say, over our heads.
Before the break, we were talking about this celestial essence thing that supposedly makes humans such a threat to the custodians. They want it, but can't get it. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, the book gives us a glimpse into what the celestial essence might be. They call it a source of life, a connection to this higher realm or dimension. And the book suggests it's tied to our spiritual development, our ability to connect with something beyond just the material world, you know?
So it's not just about having a lot of knowledge or fancy technology. It's about tapping into something much deeper within us.
Exactly. It's like we have this hidden potential that the custodians are terrified of because it's something they just don't have. They can manipulate technology and information all they want, but they can't replicate this source of life that seems to be a natural part of being human.
Makes you think, right? What if we're more powerful than we realize? What if our true potential isn't about spaceships and gadgets, but about things like compassion and understanding?
It's a fascinating thought. The book definitely hints that our biggest strength is our ability to connect with something bigger than ourselves, a power to the custodians with all their fancy tech just can't control.
It's almost like they're this super advanced but ultimately limited force. Like imagine a really smart AI that can do all these calculations but doesn't actually get what it means to be alive, to feel, to connect.
That's a great analogy. They control the systems, but they miss the essence. Which brings us back to those resets, these catastrophic events that the custodians orchestrate to keep us in line.
You know, this reset idea, it makes me think about how history always seems to repeat itself. Civilizations rise and fall, knowledge gets lost and then found again. What if those cycles aren't just random? What if they're part of a bigger plan, controlled by forces we don't even understand?
That's a really interesting question. The book wants us to think about history not as a straight line, but as a series of cycles, and maybe those cycles are being manipulated by something we just can't comprehend.
The book mentions this great flood that happened during the last reset, wiping out most of humanity. It's kind of like those flood myths you hear in cultures all over the world. Makes you wonder if there's some truth hidden in those ancient stories.
Right. It's fascinating to think that maybe those seemingly crazy stories have some basis in real events that have been twisted or hidden over time. Makes you wonder how much of our history has been deliberately kept from us.
Yeah, it's a little unnerving to think that we might be living in a world shaped by forces we don't understand at all, and that what we know about history might be incomplete or even totally wrong.
It definitely shakes things up a bit, doesn't it? But maybe that's what Terra Infinita is all about, encouraging us to question, to look deeper, and to consider things that might seem unbelievable at first.
So if we go along with this idea of resets, what can we learn from them? Is there anything we can do to stop them from happening again? Or are we just stuck as pawns in some cosmic game we don't even know the rules of?
No, that's the big question, and the book doesn't really give us a straight answer, but it does drop some hints. It suggests that the custodians get nervous when civilizations develop certain abilities. So maybe if we can figure out what those abilities are, we can figure out how to navigate this cosmic playing field without getting wiped out.
So it's not just about fighting back against the custodians. It's about understanding the rules of the game, the things that set them off. Maybe there's a way to evolve without becoming the kind of threat they feel the need to erase.
That's a good point. It's not necessarily about brute force or rebellion. It might be more about figuring out their motivations, their weaknesses, and maybe even finding a way to coexist without triggering another one of those resets.
The book also mentions that the custodians gave us this dangerous technology that ended up killing William Morris. What was the point of that?
That's one of the most unsettling parts. The book implies they did it on purpose, knowing it was dangerous. Maybe they were trying to cause chaos and division, or maybe even push us toward destroying ourselves.
It makes you wonder, right? Are some of the technological advances we see today, the ones causing more problems than they solve, are those part of the same pattern?
It definitely makes you think about the potential downsides of technology, doesn't it? What if we're not always in control of the things we create? What if some of those advances are more about control and manipulation than actual progress?
Good point. Terra Infinita really makes us question the whole narrative around technology. Are we really in charge, or are we becoming slaves to systems we don't fully understand?
Those are definitely questions worth thinking about. And they tie into the book's bigger message about being aware, about questioning everything, and realizing that any system has the potential for manipulation and control.
Speaking of systems, the book creates this amazing picture of a whole network of civilizations beyond the ice wall. It's not just humans and custodians, right? There's this whole cast of characters, Anunnaki, Venusians, Draconians, and more.
What's really cool about this idea of all these different civilizations is that it makes us think about different ways of interacting and developing. Some are super advanced technologically, others are more spiritually evolved, and some are caught in conflicts that look a lot like our own struggles here on Earth.
It's almost like a cosmic soap opera, with all these different groups fighting for power and resources. It's a good reminder that we're not alone in the universe, and maybe the challenges we face are playing out on a much bigger stage.
Definitely broadens our perspective, doesn't it? And it challenges us to consider how diverse life and consciousness might be out there.
So let's dive into some of these other civilizations. The book describes the Anunnaki as this powerful but manipulative race obsessed with power. They built pyramids and have left their mark on lots of worlds, including Earth, way back in the past.
The Anunnakis are interesting because they represent this archetype of the advanced but ethically questionable civilization. They have incredible knowledge and power, but don't seem to have much compassion or care for other beings.
Sounds like a bit of a warning, doesn't it? Like, be careful about chasing technological progress without also growing spiritually.
Yeah, it's a reminder that technology is just a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. The Anunnaki seem to represent what happens when you master technology without any ethical boundaries.
The book then compares the Anunnaki to the Venusians, who are more spiritually advanced and actually manage to fight off the custodians. They live underground and focus a lot on inner development.
Right, the Venusians represent a different path, one that focuses on spiritual growth and harmony. It seems they've found a way to resist the custodians, not with weapons, but by developing their consciousness and inner potential.
It's like they've tapped into that celestial essence that the custodians are so desperate for. Makes you wonder if true freedom comes not from conquering our enemies, but from mastering ourselves.
That's a really profound thought. Maybe real strength comes not from external power, but from inner resilience, wisdom, and connecting with the source of life.
So we've got the Anunnaki with their technology, the Venusians with their spiritual focus, and then there are the Draconians, who seem a bit more intimidating. Winged warriors, psychic powers, advanced weapons. That's a powerful combination.
The Draconians are more of a warrior culture, valuing strength, discipline, and combat. The book says they have a shaky alliance with the custodians, so they're a force to be reckoned with, but also kind of unpredictable.
Yeah, like a wild card. Who knows if they'll eventually turn against the custodians, or if their hunger for power will push them closer to the forces of control and domination.
It's definitely a question worth considering. It shows just how complex this hidden world is with all its shifting alliances and power struggles.
And we can't forget the Greys, the ones famous for abducting and experimenting on humans. They're super intelligent but cold, driven by scientific curiosity.
Right, the Greys. They've become a classic part of alien lore, often seen as these emotionless, calculating beings. The book portrays them as seeing humans as lab rats, basically, driven by this detached scientific curiosity that completely disregards our well-being.
Like they're the ultimate example of science gone wrong, a warning about chasing knowledge without any compassion or ethics.
Exactly. They represent a path of pure intellect without any empathy, which ultimately leads to isolation and a really messed up understanding of what life is really about.
So we've got this whole cast of characters, each representing a different way of evolving, a different approach to power, and different values. It's a pretty amazing and kind of overwhelming glimpse into how complex life might be beyond our little world.
Overwhelming, yeah, but also super exciting. It makes us stretch our imaginations, consider possibilities we never would have dreamt of, and realize just how vast the universe is with all its different forms of life.
It's like a call to step outside our comfort zone, question everything, and embrace the mystery of the unknown. But with all these alien civilizations in the mix, Terra Infinita keeps coming back to humanity's unique potential, this celestial essence that makes us a threat to the custodians. What can we actually do to tap into that power, to wake up that potential inside us?
That's the million-dollar question, right? The book gives us some clues, suggesting the answer is in our spiritual development, in our connection with something bigger than ourselves. But how we actually unlock this potential is still a mystery, a challenge for each of us to figure out.
That's a good point. It seems Terra Infinita is offering more than just a cool story. It's like a call to action, an invitation to explore our own potential and figure out our place in this cosmic play.
Exactly. It challenges us to question, explore, and ultimately choose our own path. Will we give in to the control of forces like the custodians? Or will we wake up to our true potential and create a future that reflects who we really are?
Before we wrap up part 2, let's dive a little deeper into the Republic. We've heard about their attempts to help us and their advanced technology, but what's life actually like in this hidden civilization? What can we learn from how they live? What do they value?
That's a great question, and it's one that we'll explore in detail when we come back for part 3 of our deep dive into Terra Infinita.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been on quite a journey with Terra Infinita, haven't we? Hidden Earths, powerful custodians, this mysterious celestial essence that makes humans different.
Yeah, it's a lot to process. And before we jump back into those big ideas, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the Republic, that hidden civilization that plays such a big role in the book.
Yeah, you mentioned we could learn something from their way of life. So tell me, what's the Republic actually like? What kind of society have they created beyond that ice wall?
Well, the book paints a picture of a society focused on harmony, balance, and living in tune with nature. They're definitely technologically advanced, maybe even more so than us, but they use their tech in a way that's sustainable and doesn't harm their environment.
That's pretty amazing. Like, they figured out how to balance technological progress with respect for nature. Something we could definitely learn a thing or two about.
Exactly. They seem to understand that real progress isn't just about gadgets and machines. It's about figuring out how to live in harmony with ourselves, each other, and the planet.
So it's a more holistic approach, thinking about how everything's connected. It does make you wonder if our way of doing things, always chasing profit, even if it hurts people or the planet, is that really sustainable in the long run?
It's a question worth asking. The Republic's way of life is like a different model, showing that it is possible to create a society that values sustainability, cooperation, and being connected to nature.
The book also says they've managed to resist the custodians. How did they do that? Did they fight back with their own fancy technology?
That's the interesting part. The book suggests it's not their military strength that protects them, it's their spiritual awareness and their understanding of reality. They've developed a level of consciousness that makes them immune to the custodians' manipulation.
So it's like they've evolved beyond the custodians' reach. They're playing a different game entirely, on a higher level, you could say.
Exactly. They've moved past the limits of the material world and tapped into something the custodians just can't get their hands on.
Which brings us back to that celestial essence. Is that what the people of the Republic have developed? Can they teach us how to do it?
It's possible. The book hints that their spiritual practices and connection to nature have allowed them to access this celestial essence. They seem to understand something about the nature of reality, something that gives them an edge over the custodians.
It's like they've discovered a secret, a hidden truth that unlocks a power that those obsessed with material control just can't touch. It's inspiring, but kind of daunting too. If the answer's in spiritual development, how do we even start cultivating that in a world so focused on material stuff?
That's the challenge, isn't it? The book suggests that true freedom is about rediscovering our connection to something bigger than ourselves, to the source of life. It's a journey of inner exploration, questioning everything we've been taught, and opening ourselves up to possibilities beyond what we think we know.
It's like we need to unplug from the matrix, to break free from the programmed reality we've been told to accept. But it's also a personal journey, right? Something we each have to figure out on our own.
Absolutely. The book doesn't give us a step-by-step guide to reach this level of awareness. It's more of an invitation, a challenge, to explore our own potential and find the truth for ourselves.
So Terra Infinita isn't just a sci-fi adventure story, is it? It's more like a guide to waking up, a call to explore those hidden parts of ourselves and discover the power we have inside.
You got it. It's a story that makes us question everything, break free from the limits of our reality, and embrace all the possibilities that open up when we tap into our true potential.
It's been awesome exploring these ideas with you. Terra Infinita definitely throws out some crazy concepts. Some people might write it off as fantasy, but I think there's a lot there, even if we see it as a metaphor for power, control, and what the human spirit is capable of.
I agree. Whether you take the book literally or not, it raises important questions for all of us. Questions about reality, the limits of knowledge, and whether humans can actually evolve beyond our current limitations.
It's a call to wake up, to question, to explore, and create a future that reflects our true potential. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder these mysteries and continue your own deep dive into Terra Infinita.
Until next time, keep questioning, keep searching, and keep reaching for the truth.